Hello, everyone. This is Pragya Devan, and welcome to my YouTube series called Everything Immigration, where we talk about the latest developments, news, and policies for immigrants in Canada. And I have with me Ms. Shafoli Kapoor, who's a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. And today we'll touch upon the latest changes imposed by the Government of Canada that will directly impact thousands of international students waiting to start their college and school for the upcoming fall term. Thank you so much, Shafoli, for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Pragya.
So, Shafoli, right out of the gate, I would like to start with the most trending news of the moment, which is government is looking at a phased-in approach to reopen the Canadian border, starting with the fully vaccinated travelers. What's your take on this?
What I foresee happening right away is that the government is going to first open the borders with the US, because I think the US-Canada border has been closed for almost, it's been over a year that they've been closed. And I think that is the most it's a big loss for both countries, especially for Canada, because we see a lot of a lot of American tourists coming for overnight vacations to Canada. So that definitely was hampering the Canadian tourism quite a bit. So I think the first border that they'll open will be the US-Canada border. Once that opens up, we'll see a little bit of boosts in the industry back again, with tourism going back up. And then after that, I think gradually they're going to open up cases depending on the countries, right? Like, for example, if we take India, I think that's probably going to be the last country that's going to open up fully. For now, I know that the international flights, like the travel bans that we have from India, the flight bans, they've been extended up to July 31st. And yeah, that could be extended again depending on the situation in India, in August. But for now, I think they're going to gradually open up the borders to people with people who are fully vaccinated. Again, will really depend on a lot of countries. But yeah, we'll see those restrictions lifted.
For sure. So that brings me to my next question. So what will be it like for the international students who are already enrolled in Canadian colleges and universities, but they could not attend in-person classes due to travel restrictions? What will happen to them?
Pragya, I'll be very honest with you. I feel there are very few international students who eventually did not come to Canada to study. Most of them were able to come. Only a few were left, and the ones that were in India or any country that they were in, they actually ended up deferring the programs. There are very few students who started the program and then eventually did not come to Canada. I understand that there was a point when those international students were restricted, but then later, soon after, I think international students were allowed, workers were allowed, permanent residents and Canadian citizens were allowed, the spouses, immediate family members of Canadian citizens and permanent residents were allowed. So international students had started coming in. Now, if we talk about the current scenario as we speak today, I think the international students are still making their way into Canada, not directly, not on direct flights, not on regular routes, but through indirect routes. They've been coming through Mexico City, they've been coming through Serbia, they've been coming through Ethiopia. So people have been, especially international students, they have been coming because we all know that the ultimate motive of international students is to come here, get that exposure, study in colleges here, even if the classes were online, to be inside Canada. So I'll be very honest with you, and I don't think there were any international students who completed the entire program in their countries. Like, they eventually did find a way to get into Canada to finish the rest of the program.
Yeah, for sure. So, but I heard that there were certain students who deferred the programs as well because they were not sure about the travel restrictions.
That's right. They deferred the programs, but to be honest, the ones who deferred the programs were the ones who were waiting for the decisions on their study visas. They were not the students who did not want to come or who wanted to defer their plans because of COVID. Those were the students who did not hear on the study visa applications. Once they had the decision on their applications, they took the next flight out.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So the only students who deferred the programs were the ones that were waiting for the study visas. That's it.
Okay. So there is this one question that is bothering everyone, especially international students, is that things have changed, and with COVID, it's not the same world anymore. So what changes an international student should expect in the immigration process now?
See, I think for the next 1 year, we will see rules and policies relaxed, just like what we've seen in the last couple of months, actually since February of 2020, since that first historic 75 draw. We will continue to see relaxed rules because there's no way that immigration will be able to meet their targets this year unless they make it easy for people who are already inside Canada. We've heard our minister, Honorable Immigration Minister Marky Mendicino, saying it a few times in many of his media press meetings that he intends to meet his allocation target for this year from within Canada, because he strongly believes that people there are enough people inside Canada who can become permanent residents for him to be able to meet his allocation limit for this year, which is about 401,000 immigrants this year, right? New immigrants. So I think things will remain the way they are right now, with new policies coming in, with relaxed rules, with express entry scores going down for Canadian experience class. We'll continue to see that, and things will continue to remain rather less complicated for international students.
Well, that sounds like a good news. So, there is a lot of chaos when it comes to immigration process and visa filing. And with COVID, everything, got delayed. And I was hearing all sorts of news about how some immigration consultants are taking advantage of the situation and they are duping students. So what advice would you give to a student who is in the process of applying for their visa or are thinking of applying in the future?
So are you talking about students outside Canada or inside Canada?
Outside Canada.
So you know what, so this is my principle in life and in my business. I never comment on anybody else's practices. I have no jurisdiction within that. Like, everybody has their own way of doing business. But what I can tell international students, be it outside Canada, be it inside Canada, is do your research. Information is out there. Just like in medicine, we say that always seek a second opinion. Similarly, if you ever feel that you're not getting the right response, or your gut tells you that this is not right, always seek second opinion. Number two, back home, the consultants or the student advisor, whoever you go to, they're not licensed. Make sure that they're licensed. And when I say they're licensed, it doesn't mean that they'll never dupe you, or they'll never do anything wrong, or they'll never do anything that is not in your best interest. But the only reason is that if there is something that goes wrong, there is a regulatory body that you can go up to get, I mean, I wouldn't say to get the situation fixed, but at least, get your money back. I mean, whatever money you've paid, or even to, get justice if you've really been duped. Now, getting a refusal on your study visa is probably not the right, I mean, that really is not in our control. That's really the visa officer's discretion, right? Whether he approves the visa or not. But if you're being cheated, like, if somebody's selling you an LMI, or if somebody's charging you money for a job offer, then in those scenarios, always deal with a licensed immigration consultant, an authorized consultant, or a lawyer, so that you know that at least you're in safe hands, right? And even if they do something wrong to you, you can at least take them up with a certain body, right? So then at least your money is protected.
Yeah, I think the keyword here is do your research, because it's very important. And no matter whether you're outside Canada or inside, but
that's right.
You need to know what you're doing.
Absolutely. Do your research. The information's out there. And then, of course, I mean, things can be complicated. The laws can be complicated. Seek help. There's no problem in seeking help. But then seek help from the right people who are authorized to do the work.
Yes. So, Shafoli, let's talk about the changes in immigration policies incorporated by the Government of Canada. So students who are already in Canada and they are doing their courses, the students who are outside Canada, but they are doing the online courses. So will they be allowed to apply for the postgraduate work permit once they complete the course?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, this policy was announced, I think, last year in in fall last year that anybody who's pursuing their education online will still be eligible to get postgraduate work permits. So I don't really see a problem there. But what I do see a problem with online programs is that students will not be eligible if there's any. So there is a rule, a ministerial guideline on this fact that if you're doing online education, or distance education, if more than 50% of your program is online, you can't get points for Canadian education. So we have not heard from Canadian government on that aspect yet, whether they will start allotting 15 points for that education as well. But as of right now, if we go by the existing rules, the distance education or online learning does not give you those 15 points or 30 points for Canadian education. So the students might lose those points, but as far as postgraduate work permit is concerned, they will get a postgraduate work permit, even if they've completed the entire program outside Canada.
Oh wow, that's amazing. And the famous TR to PR pathway policy, which was introduced by the government, it made a lot of waves in the few past weeks. So how is it different than a regular express PR process?
It's very different from the regular express PR process. First and foremost, the simplest, like the simple nature of this program. It's very straightforward. It's not complicated. There were 4 programs, actually 2 programs, but then for non-French speakers and French speakers, it was subdivided into 4 groups. But primarily for essential occupations, there was a list under healthcare and non-healthcare, and then just for international graduates in Canada. Anybody who graduated after 2017 was eligible to apply under this program, regardless of their experience. As long as they had graduated, they could just get your documents together, have a. English was quite a necessary requirement, English proficiency. So an IELTS exam or a CELPIP exam, get your documents ready and then submit your application. Very straightforward, very, very simple. And then there were these other 2 programs where it was about if you had experience, 1 year experience, 52 weeks and 1560 hours in an essential occupation, Annex B, or a healthcare occupation, Annex A, and the list is on the website, you could directly apply for PR. And those occupations, especially in the non-healthcare occupations, were primarily NOC and D positions, which were actually not eligible for express entry, because express entry is all about occupations OA and B, right? The NOC code OAB. So all skilled work occupations, but this one was included all NOC and D positions, not all. I mean, the ones that were essential, for example, security guards, delivery people. And then several other occupations. I don't remember the list top of my head, but several occupations in the list. So those were eligible for this. No point system, nothing. Just need to prove that you have that experience. Paid experience, cannot be self-employed. You should be inside Canada. You should have done that work on an authorized permit, so you should be authorized to do work. Hours on student visas were counted too. So let's assume, there's a student who's working as a security guard part-time. They could also count their hours to apply under this program. And what else? And rest everything very similar to how other PR programs go. You need to be medically admissible. You need to provide with your police clearance reports. And that's about it. Very, very simple. No point system, no waiting for the invitation. Just the day when it opened, people could apply for it.
Yeah, no wonder all the seats were filled in just one day.
Actually, they didn't fill up as fast as we thought they would, because we were anticipating the seats to fill out, like 40,000 seats to fill in 24 hours in less. Like I was anticipating for the program to fill in 1 hour, but it actually took about 24 hours.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, people were like literally ready with all their documents, and all they just did was upload all their stuff.
No, but students made a lot of mistakes. I come across international students every single day who reach out to me to say, oh, we forgot this. Oh, I didn't disclose my previous refusals. Oh, I did this. Oh, I did. So people did do a lot of mistakes.
As we all know, that Canadian economy is heavily dependent on the inflow of international students. And with COVID, there has been very limited immigration last year. So how do you think the government is planning to compensate for those losses?
So government already has been doing a lot, since February of this year with, like we had that first historic draw for 27,000 invitations that were issued in February. And then after that, every draw, they've been doing almost 5,000 to 6,000 invitations under express entry. And then now we had the 90,000, the new policy where 90,000 people will become permanent residents in Canada. So I think the government already has been doing a lot, and they will continue doing so in going forward, in my opinion, until at least the end of this year, to meet their immigration targets for this year, which is a huge number, a huge target to meet the 401,000 new immigrants. So I think we will continue to see new, similar programs, or even if I don't want to, fuel any rumors, but I have a very strong inclination that we will continue to see. In fact, I have a very strong feeling that the international graduate stream will probably open up again under the temporary public policy, because I know that a lot of students who submitted the applications on May 6th duplicated their application. So they made mistakes, and then eventually they went on to submit another application because they wanted to fix their previous application. Then what has happened since May 6th, because express entry draws have been going down, a lot of students got invitations to express entry. So many of those students have also applied under express entry. As a result, they have withdrawn from the TR to PR pathway application. So I think once all the AORs are given out, once immigration has gone through that entire lot of applications, the 40,000 applications, they will probably reopen this program at least one more time, sometime in midsummer or early fall.
Oh, I wish whatever you're saying is true. So any final advice for the students who will be coming to Canada in the upcoming fall semester?
Just come with your focus. Just come to finish your program. Come with the focus that you originally, applied for that program. And trust me, things will work out for you guys too, just like they worked out for everybody else so far. So things will be perfect. There will be a way for everybody to get permanent residence in Canada. I strongly believe that once you're in Canada, something or the other eventually does work out. There is one or the other program that will work in your favor, with which you can get permanent residence in Canada. So once you're inside Canada, I don't really think it becomes too much of a challenge, because you have a long, if you're coming to Canada to do a 2-year program, so you have at least 5 years ahead of you, because 2 years of education and 3 years of work permit, and something or the other will definitely work out for you in these 5 years.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. So thank you so much, Shafoli, for your time and valuable information. I'm sure this will help all the international students. And I would like to inform everyone that Shafoli works for T-Dot Immigration, which is based in Toronto, and she's available on major social media platforms. And if you have any further questions or concerns, you can reach out to her. I will attach the links of her Instagram and TikTok, because she's famous on TikTok. I've seen that in the description section. So that's it, friends. Thanks for watching. You can follow me on my Instagram page as well. I will attach the link as well. And I'll see you next week in another episode of Everything Immigration.